Hello, everyone. I'm Donatas URBONUS, and this is another URBONUS podcast, unofficially sponsored by the Turkish Basketball League, because as my guests on today's episode, Mr. Errick McCollum from Karşıyaka, Izmir, and a guy from Detroit with humble beginnings, Will Clyburn from Anadolu Efes Istanbul. Hello, guys.
Hello.
What's up?
Errick, we're so glad and honored to have Will on the spot because we're going to preview the Final Four in Kaunas, and you couldn't find a better co-host than Will, who was the EuroLeague champion back in 2019 and also won the MVP in that Final Four in Vitoria. So it's just great to have you here, Will. And we couldn't find a better co-host for this pod after all EuroLeague team selection. So now let's be real. From 1 to 10, how much we were surprised of not seeing Will Clyburn in at least second All-EuroLeague team?
For me, I was probably at a 9. I was at a 9.
Okay.
I'm gonna go probably 7-8. I'm gonna go 7-8. I didn't expect it to look like that, but I'm like, okay, you know what? They have every right. We didn't make playoffs and whatnot, but still kind of surprised at the second team for sure. Even some of the first team, I was kind of surprised. But hey, I don't know who goes into that.
I think the positionless, the mixing and matching was very surprising. And then, usually go by the best performance, throughout the regular season. Dominations and statistics show it, PIR, your stats, all those points, everything throughout the year. And it wasn't like you were a bottom dweller. FX was always in the mix, maybe a game or two short of the playoffs, but in that mix. And it shows that they value performance because Darius Thompson, had an excellent season. He also didn't make the playoffs and he was on the second team. So, I felt like that should at least put you there, especially knowing that the 3 position is extremely thin, not only in Europe, but in the EuroLeague. And you're clearly the best 3 in Europe. So, and then with the numbers back up the argument. So definitely a surprise. Feel like they dropped the ball there a little bit. And, definitely should have been some different decisions made.
Yeah, what was your first reaction, Will? What were the message you were getting, I don't know, from your teammates or friends? Because it's pretty fresh thing. Maybe an hour ago, before starting recording this pod, we got the second
I
team.
walked out of practice. and walked to the locker room. Shane has his phone. We sit by each other. And he said, man, that's crazy. And I said, what's crazy? He's like, you didn't see it? And then he showed me. I said, hey, you know what? I'm not even surprised, but that's still crazy. It was obviously I wasn't going to dwell on it that much, but on to the next thing. But it was still kind of weird to see.
Yeah, just to make it clear, these All-EuroLeague lineups were chosen through a voting process that including members of media, EuroLeague head coaches, team captains, and fans. So it's not like that EuroLeague decided or hashtag EuroLeague Mafia or something, or media is creating narratives and something. So it was kind of combined voting. But at the same time, I see at least a couple of problems with the voting process. First of all, I would give more voice to the players. It should be more than just captains of the teams expressing their voices, because EuroLeague head coaches, they're really involved in everything. I saw that they chose EuroLeague head coach of the year. That makes sense. But I also saw that they chose the best defender of the year, and now having the same equal rights in this voting process, for me, it's weird. And of course, making it a positionless voting, I've never seen it before in the EuroLeague. I'm aware that that's how they did this voting this year, because I remember I was kind of a bit surprised when I, opened the voting poll, and I was about to put my first or second. No, I think it was only about the first team. You couldn't put like first and second all EuroLeague teams. And I saw that you can put the player from wherever position you want. You can basically go with all 5 centers with your all EuroLeague team. And I was like, okay, that's weird. That's interesting. But since I'm old-fashioned, I put point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. So, this whole thing in a guards-driven EuroLeague, to have 2 centers in the first team, I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I'm with you. 2 5s in the first team is useless. I
What
think
would be your ideal All-EuroLeague first team, Eric?
for me, you got to have Mike James in there. I mean, he took to the Final Four. Monaco's a team that's not a power. Plays great. Double teamed on a regular basis. Boxing one sometimes. Still perform well and lift the elevation of his teammates in their play. So,
sorry for interrupting you, Eric, but that's the third problem I have with this voting process. We should just cross the line between the regular season and the playoffs. Because it should be different awards. We should award players for the regular season performance because playoffs is a tricky thing. What if Mike was struggling facing 2 or 3 defenders that Maccabi throw at him during the series? I mean, it's good that Mike is great, so he kind of performed his way, but you cannot, it wouldn't be fair to underestimate guy just because, let's say Alba put, this box and one defense on him, he underperformed, and that's why he shouldn't be, selected to any of these teams. I mean, there should be awards only for the regular season performance because this playoff thing, I mean, it makes Eddie Tavares basically the best player in the playoffs and best player in the EuroLeague, the way he impacted the game.
Yeah, and I think that's a valid point. Just because the regular season is 30 games. That's plenty of sample size. You get to see
34
games. You get to see night in, night out what everybody's doing. And when you get to the playoffs, it's 3 to 5 games. So it's still not the same. Like somebody could have an amazing 3 or 4 games. And, if they weren't good all season, they're not worthy, of a selection. So I think that, he has to be in there. Like, okay, obviously Vezinko, that's no brainer, probably the MVP, clear. And then you got to have Tavares, just his impact, what he did, everything all season. That's it. But I'm not rolling with Musa. Like, I don't think he needs to be there. I think he's a good player. I think he had a good season. But what I've seen there is the Tavares effect for that team. We seen what happened when he's out, when he's in there. We seen through all that. I don't think that Musa had a better season than Wade Baldwin, than Mike James, even Kevin Punter. So, any of those guys could be there in that spot. And that's not a knock on him. It's just showing that the high level of play that those 3 guys played at was a little bit greater than his. Doesn't mean he's a bad player. Doesn't mean that I'm hating on him. Just means that he had a good season. They had great seasons. These are different levels there. And then, so you can pick your choose who you want out of that. I do like Lorenzo. I think he played great. Was kind of a driving force all season. I'm not mad at that one. I think that's okay. But and I'm one of the biggest Lessort fans. Like, I think he is a great player, the energy, the effort he brings, but I don't think he was first team. So those 2 guys, I kind of would, interchange and get them out of there. Put them maybe on the second team. But me personally, I would put Clyburn over Musa in the second team. So he would be off for me. But, that's just my opinion.
So are we all positive that playoffs goes into the voting for the first team and second team?
I don't think so because there is
if you take playoffs away, then nothing against him, but I don't think Tavares makes first team.
Exactly.
If you take playoffs away, and if you do add playoffs, there's no way Wade Baldwin doesn't make first team.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If we taking playoff performances in the playoffs, what he did for Maccabi compared to everybody else, then you have to put him there. And
I think
second half of the season, he was great for them. So I don't really know what goes into it and how they kind of do all that.
That's very confusing. What would be the ideal voting process for you guys? Let's say you're deciding the future of all EuroLeague team selection.
I think players vote and coaches vote. That should be sufficient. Don't get the fans involved. They're just going to pick their favorite players.
Yeah.
That's it.
Who got the biggest fan base?
Yeah. Like, don't get them involved because they're going to pick with passion, with their heart, not with their brain. Yeah. It's just normal. Like, my favorite team in any sport, like, I'm going to roll with that team more than I would the performance of someone on a rival team. Like, you can't imagine someone from Madrid as a fan picking a player from Barcelona. Like, it's probably hard to separate the two. And somebody from Olympiacos picking a Panathinaikos player.
Yeah, although it's you can go. Yeah,
we definitely forgot about Sluka's playoff performance this year. Like,
exactly.
he make no team. So they have to be more consistent on how they want to do this. If it is playoffs and just regular season, so they have to be more consistent about it.
But if it's not playoffs, you announce the awards before playoffs start. That's what you should do. Announce the teams right after the conclusion of the regular season. If it is playoffs, that's fine. Then you wait to see the performances. But do you punish a guy who had 3-4 bad games when they had a solid 34 game season? Do you punish him? I don't know. Like, does the playoff overweigh everything? If somebody was average all season and then they were dominant in the playoffs, does that elevate them? I mean, I know contractually, money-wise, free agent-wise, yes, but for the awards, does it?
Yeah, it's just too confusing. And just for the reminder, all EuroLeague first team includes Lorenzo Brown, Janan Musa, Sasha Vezenkov, Matthias Lezort, and Andy Tavares. The second team with Mike James, Darius Thompson, Wade Baldwin, Kevin Punter, and Nikola Mirotic. So as Mike tweeted, we're playing 5 out and zone on defense. Lol. So yeah, that pretty much sums it up. By the way, I'm just curious, since small forwards are not getting enough recognition and respect in the EuroLeague, Will, who do you see as the next best small forward in the EuroLeague? That's a tough question because
first off, Deck is a problem. No matter how you want to put it, his one-on-one game is expanded. Obviously, he gets you one way, and then he's strong enough to bump you. You can't bump him off his drive, so he's going to get to his spot no matter what's going on. And if you put a big on him, same thing. He's still bumping bigs off as well. So he's up there. I'm curious to see how his process turns out, but I'm going to go Diallo from Monaco. I'm very curious on how he's going to turn out, because if he can really add to his game offensively, and I mean really start becoming a knockdown shooter offensively, defensively, he's great. He's an animal defensively. He's going to go and take out whoever you got. He's going to play aggressive. So I'm going to say those two for sure. The next two, I think.
Really? See, for me, obviously I got you. And then I do like Deck, but I like Shields from Milan.
Okay.
Shields.
Not this year, maybe.
I put Shields in the 2, though. I put Shields in the 2.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, 'cause I really liked him, and then I like Deck. Those is
Deck Shields would be my obvious choice as well, but just not for this year.
He struggled this year
too much. Yeah, and Gobert is just crazy. He can bump even the center. He's not a mismatch for a center, so he's a tough guy, and he doesn't show any emotions, but he can kill you on the court in a sportsmanship way, I would say, not in some other ways that other players are killing each other. Anyways, Alpha Diallo. I agree. I see a lot of potential in his game, but as you mentioned, he has to improve his 3-point shooting. I mean, he was 1 of 14 in the series against Maccabi. And you could see that he suffers offensively. Yeah. They force him to shoot open looks beyond the arc, and he started, hesitating. He started making those 2-3 additional steps just to go closer to the basket, and of course, it impacts the offensive flow. But if he will nail this thing, he's still young.
If you look at him, man, he's usually the most athletic guy on the court, and defensively, if you've seen the frustration he does to opponents, you have to look at the little things he's doing to them. He's grabbing them. He's pushing them when they're on the free throw line. He's doing little things to kind of get in your head. But offensively, obviously, you got to work on the jump shot. But then he's super athletic. He can get in the lane. So in a year or two, maybe, if he really, like I said, puts in the work, I think he's going to be really good.
I like to see him get a little bit better off the bounce. Obviously, he needs to improve his jump shot for the spacing, especially playing in the Monaco system with Mike. He's going to get a lot of open corner threes. I'd like to see him, add to Will Clyburn, the hard right drive, maybe the in and out, into the spin. He's a big guy, 6'6", 6'6", it looks like. Strong frame, wiry. He needs to get, comfortable putting the ball on the floor, I think, in closeout situations. And then I think the next step, and I think this is what helps your game, is your ability to post. Because guys who are quick, who can dribble, they'll just put a smaller guard on you, a 1 or 2 position, and that could take that away. And then he's not really a strong shooter. So if he can go back to basket, maybe add a little jump hook, a little fadeaway in the middle, I think that can take him to another level. And then maybe he can be baby Clyburn,
That's a good comparison. Yeah, you should just teach him some shooting, as you also did this crazy break in your game as well after Darussafaka years. Was it a haircut or what made a difference?
No, don't remind me. No, it was the disrespect. That's what it really was. The huge disrespect.
Yeah. And since we have a 2019 Final Four MVP and EuroLeague champ, I thought it was interesting to involve BasketNews Plus members into this podcast by asking them to make some questions to you guys for this podcast. You can actually become BN Plus members on basketnews.com/plus. We have some great subscription levels. And also during this week for the Final Four, we're going to have a lot of content, which will be also published on basketnews.com, but also in our BN Plus community chat on WhatsApp. So it's the best timing to join our community. So the thing is that I try to involve our readers into this podcast and ask them to make the questions for you guys. And I actually received an interesting question from Nikos Manaras. And the question was like this. Hello guys, I would like to ask you, your guests, what kind of teams are most likely to succeed in the Final Four format? The more compact ones or the ones with the most individual talent? What counts the most in a knockout game? So basically, what's the formula of winning the Final Four?
Man, in my opinion, man, it's going to take 1 or 2 big performances. No matter how you see it, you're going to have 1 or 2 guys that really need to play well. Like the teams that are going to struggle are the teams that really can't create offensively, because it's really not a home game. You're not in your arena, and the teams that do well can like really create and get their own shots. And that's kind of my input on it. Like the teams that can't really create their own shots and really structured, I feel like those teams really struggle in a Final Four.
Yeah. You make good points. I think, to win a knockout game, that magnitude, you need one guy on the court that can't be guarded by one person. I think that's important just because that person kind of creates a directional pull on the court. Everywhere they go, the opposing team goes, and that gets easy shots, layups or dunks for the bigs, closeout situations, all these advantages for the offense. So you need a guy or two who can consistently beat their man and who's not afraid of the moment. And sometimes that moment might be, them struggling, missing shots, but they're not afraid and they're still going to take control, in the fourth quarter or in the money time. And then I also think you need a little bit of depth, just because
you got to have a deep team.
Yeah, because you're playing like with 1 day rest in between, and your main guys, it's very difficult to play championship level basketball. And a guy might play 32, 33, 34 minutes, get 1 day rest, and come back and have to do it again. And when you're the main player, you're getting face guarded, you're getting bumped, you're getting cut on, you're getting double teamed. Like you got to work so hard. And then you're having to assist or score on all your buckets or your teammates' buckets. It's tough. So I think a little bit of depth will help. And I think teams that are good offensive rebounding teams have always had success in the Final Four. Those teams that can get those extra possessions, second chance points, those good offensive rebound teams usually have success. So that's what I would say could be a good winning formula. And it never hurts to have a coach who gives freedom to the players, because guys don't second guess themselves. They go out there, they take risks. Sometimes in that structure, that system, like Will was talking about, if you're in a box and the offense isn't working, everybody scouted you so well, they've been watching you all season. You're going to need someone who has some creativity. And if your coach doesn't allow you to have creativity or doesn't give that responsibility to the main guys, it could be difficult if the offense fails.
Okay, so in other words, from what I understood, you're ruling out Barcelona. out of title race. And basically, fast forwarding this discussion, you probably put Monaco as a potential or as your front runners to win the EuroLeague. Did I read this situation out well?
You know what? I'm not scratching Barcelona just because, man, Barcelona just has so much size on that team. Like, just has so much. He's so creative at the point guard position on Barcelona, where he plays out the comfort zone of everyone else. He's the only one I see on that team that just plays completely free, does what he wants to do.
Will, sorry for interrupting you because you got frozen for like 5 seconds, but it feels like you were talking about Nicolas Laprovitola.
Yeah, it has to be him. Has to be.
Has to be. He's the only one I've seen where just completely plays free with no worries of nothing going on. And you know what? That helps. Obviously, Mike James, they got Mike James, Okobo, and Lloyd. You have 3 guys like that can each go for 30. Each one of them go for 30. And on any given night. So obviously that's what you need. You need something like that. And if I'm gonna take my pick, I hope this doesn't bite me in the butt when I say this, but for sure I'm gonna take Monaco first. Barca, Madrid, I really can't.
Let's talk about Barca a bit later. So why do you take Monaco over Olympiacos? Let's start from this semifinal matchup, because I would say it's the most exciting one, knowing the fan bases. Knowing the fan base of Olympiacos, I would say, but knowing all this hype, all the expectation, the first seed EuroLeague team. You know, after getting all those good lessons from the last year, it felt like they were ready to get the job done this year. But why do you see Monaco putting Olympiacos fans?
Like I said, you got 3 guys that can get 30, and you got for sure 1 guy that's a willing passer that creates so much attention and is a willing passer and can give you 30. On the other side, who's your go-to scorer? Who's going to go create his own shot? And I mean create.
They don't have that.
Team.
They don't have
we had this discussion with Eric before the pod. I mean, Slukas. Probably.
I think their best
Slukas
one-on-one
is
player.
good off a screen and roll.
Yeah, if you switch, you can isolate that. I think the best one-on-one guy is Shaq McKissick.
And that's because he's just so quick, and once he gains speed, like, it's hard to stay in front of him. But at the same time, you play off. Maybe he makes a shot, maybe he does. Yeah. You really don't know. But who on that team can really say, "Hey, give me the ball. I'm about to go get a bucket"?
They don't have that.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I say Monaco over them. Even though they're a great team, they have great principles. If you watch them, they're always on the same page defensively. You never see them miss an assignment defensively. But it just worries me on the offensive end on how they would do in a game like that.
Yeah, we spoke about this earlier in our podcast. I think the problem is, like you said, they don't have that go-to scorer. They have a really good team offense. They have good ball movement. But as we saw in the playoffs in the series against Finner, athleticism, length, and size can kind of take away from that ball movement. And Monaco doesn't have the size that Finner has, but they have the athleticism. They have the speed. They have that. So, like, that could create some issues. And then another thing is Salukas has the play for their offensive flow, for the movement. But then Thomas Walkup has the play for the defense on Mike James or on Okobo. So it's like you lose something. If you go with Salukas, you lose defense. Mike James will have his way, or Diallo will have a mismatch with a smaller player on him, and maybe something you can exploit with him attacking the paint, or even Okobo or Jordan Lloyd, very good scorers. So, who's he going to guard? But you need his offense because he's kind of the orchestra of everything. He makes everything flow. But then if you go Thomas Walkup, the offense kind of becomes stagnant. They don't have that pick and roll game. They don't have that ball movement, but then they're better defensively. The problem is they have a lineup that can be good on defense or a lineup that can be good on offense, but cannot be both. And I think Monaco has the pieces to do both. And with the history of last year's matchup, we've seen it going back and forth. If it wasn't for home court, maybe Monaco wins that series. Now we're on a neutral site. We're going to see what happens. I do believe Olympiacos is the most complete team. But as we know in the playoffs, it's about matchups. And I feel like Monaco is not a great matchup for them.
No.
Yeah. And to no surprise, Monaco won both games in the regular season. And only Monaco and Red Star, they were teams that swept Olympiacos in the regular season. What's also interesting that in this Final Four, Monaco is the single team that won the game against Olympiacos this year. And as you mentioned, the playoff series, they were really tight last year. And arguably speaking, I would say that Monaco improved a lot compared to the last season, where they were so close to make it to the Final Four over Olympiacos. And the game was basically decided in the last minutes of the game. And Tyler Dorsey was also very important for Olympiacos to clinch that victory. Again, individual talent that Olympiacos might be lacking. This one-on-one guy that they are lacking of this year. But just to make this discussion more interesting, and since I don't want to have at least 4,000 Olympiacos fans going after me in Kaunas this week, I'll take Olympiacos because I believe that since they're the most complete team, they have, I would say, they play the most complete basketball. And if they will get their job done before the crunch time, which they're capable of, just like what they did against Fenerbahce against Game 5, I really think that, I think that also experience comes into play. And I remember I had this discussion with a few players, for instance, Vasa Misic, and he said how much his approach, his mentality, level of reading some particular situations was different compared to the first Final Four experience and the second or the third one. And the third one, he became the EuroLeague champion. So many of these Monaco guys, they're newcomers in the Final Four. Even for Mike James, it's crazy to know that it's only his second ever Final Four appearance. And I think that some of these guys, as even the playoffs showed, they might hit this weird mentality ceiling in the Final Four when everything is decided in 40 minutes. And although I think that matchup-wise, Monaco is very uncomfortable opponent. John Brown, he can go after Sasha Vezenko for 40 minutes. You guys mentioned both forwards can play very good defense. The only clear advantage I see in Olympiacos side is Mustafa Fall, who's very hard to stop by Monaco's defense. But I really think that, Olympiacos, they're so locked in for this mission of winning the EuroLeague that despite it being very tight game, I think that Olympiacos will come out on top.
And that's a good pick, only because I think whoever wins that series, I think will host the trophy. Right? I just feel like those are the two teams that are in good form, playing at a good level, and I like their style for a one-game format. If it was a series, I would be inclined to pick a Barcelona. I think they're strong as well. Their size, I will thought they're well coached. Everyone does their job, but in a one-game format, I feel like that star power usually rears its head.
Okay. But so, Eric, you also have Monaco advancing to the final, right?
Yes. I think it's time. It's time. I know.
Man, Olympiacos is gonna have so much pressure, man. After coming back there last year and they have to go back again, Monaco's gonna just play free. Okay, they're gonna go out there.
They're just happy to be there.
They're about to go out there and play free, and then I feel like this Monaco just have dogs. Like that's how I feel. They just got dogs that are just hungry right now. So I don't know. I really don't. I can't see them beating Olympiacos beating Monaco right now for some reason. I guess it's in my gut, but I guess we'll see. I hope they don't come rain down on me after this. I might get off social media for a while.
It's going to be a great game, though. It'll be a great game.
Yeah, I see you guys because my colleague at Adonis, he won't let me lie. Before this pod, I said, I will go with Olympiacos, but deep in my heart, I really think that Monaco is in a great situation to advance just because of all the reasons you mentioned and just being a very uncomfortable matchup, being the underdog team. So it's not going to be easy for Olympiacos. They shouldn't prepare for a big celebration in Kaunas yet.
And they fixed their team. For last year, you can tell they literally went out and added players based on their loss to the Olympiacos series. I watched the series, and last season, they lacked another ball handler. If you took away Mike James, what could they do? Paris Lee is a very good player, but he's not yet at that point of creation and being able to command an entire offense yet. And he had sparks, but they went out and got a Okobo. They went out and got a Jordan Lloyd. Now you get bona fide scorers who can play the pick and roll, who can score, who can fill it up, who can take over games. And they didn't have that. It was Mike had to go for 20 to 5, at least 20 plus, maybe 6, 7 assists every game for them to have a chance. And when he didn't do that, it was very difficult. Now he doesn't have to do that. He can score 13, 14 points. He can come out in the fourth quarter for a substitution to rest himself. And Jordan Lloyd can take the reins. Okobo, as we saw in the series with Maccabi, they're more than capable. They went out and corrected the playmaking issues, the lack of depth at the guard position. The only thing that didn't fix is that shooting, in the big position. But other than that, I think those 3 guards can power them ahead. But I would not be surprised if Olympiacos wins. I mean, they're the best team in the EuroLeague. But this is one game. Just like the NCAA tournament, the best team doesn't always win.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like I said, they definitely changed some things. If Mike went down with an ankle injury during the Maccabi game, if that happens last year, finish. Over. Because Mike didn't do anything for the rest of the game. So they added pieces where they can still operate without Mike in ways. Even when, they still can operate without Mike in situations. Even when Mike was sitting out this year, still operating, winning games without Mike being there. So they definitely added to help these situations.
By the way, regarding this 40-minute game and single game knockout system, we had a question from Beyond Plus member. Would you rather go with the Final Four or the playoff series?
Playoff series. I just think it's good for basketball for those teams because you get to play on your home court. Gives a chance for a lot of European teams to make more revenue. You're talking about selling out 18 to 20,000, depending on the arena, depending on who you are. That's a lot of money. As Zagiris people know. But also, sometimes it's hard to get a ticket. There's not enough seating. With 1 game or 2 games, everyone doesn't get that EuroLeague Final Four experience. And if you had a series, you would be able to bring the game to, more kids, more people who love the game of basketball. So I just think it will be good for the viewers. I'm sure ESPN wouldn't mind with that new deal having more games. And, we saw how important and how good the series were. We had 3 5-game series. I mean, why not do it at the Final Four level? And I feel like the disparity is less. Back in the day, the top 2 or 3 were so much greater than everyone else that you needed 1 game to give people a chance. I think now that gap has closed. And we saw it this year with how close the margins was, not only to get in the playoffs, but with those, 1 through 4 or 5 teams, kind of shifting, playing musical chairs. So I would love to see, a playoff format. I don't know how far we're away from that, but with them trying to expand and become a closed lead, it only makes sense that they eventually make that move.
It all depends on how you want to look at it. If I'm a viewer, I love a playoff series. but if I'm playing, oh man, I just see myself going home July. It all depends on how you want to look at it. That's a lot more games, man. Hey, that's a lot more miles on the body. So it all depends on how you want to look at it. Viewer, I would love it. For sure, I would love it. Watch those games, competitive. Playing wise, I'm not sure.
What about a best of 3? What about a best of 3? That's not too bad. And then
it does feel like a fake series. I don't know.
Bad. But if you go 5, 7,
5 is good. Please don't make it to 7. 5 is good. Because even this year, I mean, we had amazing playoff series. We had this crazy fight between Partizan and Madrid. We had this crazy fair fight between Maccabi and Monaco. And it was really good to watch those games, to talk about those games for like a couple of weeks. And it felt like the whole Europe was, living with this series, Fenerbahce, Olympiacos as well. And now I really feel bad as a fan, as a content creator, that basically in 3 days, in 3 games, we will decide the outcome of the whole season. We were on this very exciting moment of the year. We just started falling in love with the playoff basketball, and in 3 days and in 3 games we will just end it up so quickly, and then there will be this huge gap of best quality basketball until the national team competitions, and that's it. So I get your point about having too many games, but maybe let's just try to make the season start earlier, just fix some stuff with the national teams of these crazy windows, do something with the domestic leagues, and then make it some crazy playoff series, both for the semifinals. If there are too many games, okay, let's just play that final game as they do in the Champions League football. Final game, a single game, and that's it. But as they do in the Champions League in football, they also have, in semis, they play home and away games to extend greatness.
Soon as I retire, they can add whatever they want.
And y'all got enough foreigners anyway, all the teams, that you can just send the foreigners who usually rest in domestic league, they can just go play domestic league and come on back. Y'all get y'all rest. Y'all good to go. You got 10 or 11 foreigners, you're fine.
Okay. The last thing from about Olympiacos, we had this extended discussion about the All-EuroLeague team selection, but the topic and the award that even brought Kostas Lukas on Twitter was the Best Defensive Player of the Year award that went to Eddie Tavares, and Kostas Lukas came out publicly saying that Thomas Walkup should have won that award. Who do you choose? Who do you pick between these two? You go with Tavares or Walkup?
I think for the year, I think Walkup probably was better as impacting the defense, from how he can kind of sometimes shut down a guy or, make life really difficult. He's strong. He can guard multiple positions. He can switch, but he's really good at denying, using his angles. He's high still guy, 1.8, 1.9. I think he did an excellent job. He's on the first place team, makes sense. But I think the viewers watch that Partizan series and they seen, Tavares has the biggest impact. Like, there's no layups, no dunking. Like, guys drive to the hole and then they just turn right back out. And it's kind of like a criminal seeing the police, and you see Tavares and you just turn right back around. Oh, I'm not going to try that today. And I was really impressed with him. And I try not to be moved by 4 or 5 games. I try all right, focus on the season. And before the playoffs, I was like, yeah, Walkup's probably going to get it. Tavares wasn't himself this season. He was good, but I didn't feel the impact. I watched that series. I felt the impact. I'm with the viewers. I changed my vote immediately just because of the playoffs, and I probably shouldn't. I shouldn't do this, but it was just a masterpiece defensively. He stopped Lessort, who's a really good player who couldn't finish around the rim. He was getting blocked, or sometimes he was changing it. If somebody kept track of the altered shots, the ability to get out, move his feet, take away some of those shots off the screen. Punter was having to shoot 3-4 feet behind the line just to get the threes off, just because Tavares had that paint in that mid-range area on lock. And Punter's probably one of the better mid-range pull-up shooters in the EuroLeague. And that kind of was eliminated from him in this series. And, he still was effective. That's what great players do. But just to see him kind of take away part of people's games from the paint to the mid-range there's no one like him. And I understand why he got it. But this was a year Walkup probably should have got it, because you could give it to Tavares every single season.
Yeah, I agree. Walkup was great this year, and it was really no wrong pick here. But just the thought of Tavares, you definitely you have to, and he changes the game so much. Just being out there, you second guess every little thing you do when it comes to going to the basket. You second guess every little thing. So I understand how much he changes the game, and I was telling the guys Tavares has gotten so much better year by year. I can't say that he's taken a step back. Obviously, he hurt himself a little bit this year, but every year he's gotten so much better. Free throws, finishing, actually doing moves out the post. When he first got in the EuroLeague, he wasn't doing any moves out the post. They're like, hey, stay behind him and let him score over you. But now he's actually making moves in the post. He's finishing well, great hands. defensively, he's an animal. Obviously, you can try to take him out to the 3-point line, and now you're going to bank on your bigs hitting 3-point shots or taking them off the dribble every game. So it kind of tells you what type of game he's changing when it comes to the defensive end.
He's a great player. Yeah. He's what the Timberwolves want Rudy Gobert to be. How he's playing here. That's who they want him to be. Playing like that, affecting the game like that. That's what I see.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. I got something from my French guys tomorrow.
What do they say about Rudy Gobert? Not the most popular guy on both sides of the ocean.
Some guys think he's top. Maybe they said top 3, top 4 in French players.
Really?
Don't worry. We had these discussions a while. Oh, wow.
I don't see it, but I mean, he's top 3 or 4 paid. Yeah.
No love for Rudy Gobert on this pod. Yeah. By the way, I mean, as I said to you, Eric, in the previous pods, and those games where Eddie Tavares showed up before the game 5, I mean, when he was on the court, Partizan's 2-point shooting decreased by 27% or something. So it just, even by numbers, it tells how crazy the impact is. But once again, it's all about the wrong system. I mean, not drawing a clear line between the regular season and the playoffs. So that's why sometimes we make some recency biased picks about some of these awards. But going to Barcelona and Real Madrid series, do you think that this animal is enough of, beating Barcelona? Or even before, I just want to hear your thoughts. I mean, after this fight in Madrid, did that brawl and this Yabusele WWE move change the perception, how you look at them and their Final Four chances from the fans' perspective?
Yeah, I'm rooting against them.
I'm gonna just say this, and I'm gonna get it out of the way. It's no way they win that game. They win that series without that fight. It's no way. It's no way. I feel like Partizan lost way more in that whole thing. They lost their key scorer, their key creator, 2 games, and a lot of other people just 1 game. I feel like it was bad judgment there.
And they lost their first team All-EuroLeague big man.
So it was bad. It was bad judgment there. It was bad, man. So
and I'm not even a fan of either team, but I'm just a just person, and I feel like justice won't be served until Real Madrid loses, and then I'll feel pleased. And I have nothing against Real Madrid. I just didn't like how those sanctions and those suspensions went out, and I feel like it took away from a beautiful series. But I think Barcelona will beat Madrid because they have a secret weapon. They have a pick and pop 5-man, who was at FS, and who they used to keep Tavares out of the paint. Now he's going to be on the 3-point line. That's going to create driving lanes. That's going to create opportunities for guards. If he leaves, Sonali's a great shooter. He can hit the mid-range consistently. He can step out, hit the 3. So if he's clicking, I won't say he'll negate Tavares, but he'll take away a lot of those altered shots and those block shots just because you have to stay home with Sonali. And you could put him in all those actions, pick and popping, getting into dribble handoffs. And, he has to stay close. He can't be helping. And that's when Madrid has to be more solid. They're used to being aggressive and funneling everybody to Tavares. And he kind of erases all the guards' mistakes. Sergio Rodriguez is a great player, not that quick or good defensively. Sergio Luz a step slower, older. All those guys, Rudy Fernandez, they're going to have to be really solid on the ball. Hazonia, Musa, these guys are not defenders, and they rely heavily on Tavares to erase their mistakes. And with a guy like Sonali, he won't be able to protect the team as much because he has to guard his man.
Yeah, that, and you losing Yabusele, you don't have a guy that can really be physical with Nicola. Like, he's going to be able to really do what he wants to do on the court. And like I said, surprisingly, like, he's really physical when it comes to sealing, to posting up. And obviously he can knock down, he can shoot it with the best of them. But I just don't see those two guys are going to be a game changer. And obviously the other guy that I'm not going to mess up his name still.
You mean
is Higgins back?
Huh?
Yeah.
Who was the guy you didn't want to mess his name up?
The guard. No, the guard. No.
Laprovitola, right?
No. Yeah, I'm not going to mess up his name.
Yeah,
I'm not even going to try to.
It's not easy for us Americans.
yeah. I'm not even going to do him that way.
Is Corey Higgins back?
No,
no.
It seems like he's out for the rest of the season, which is huge. I think, as you mentioned, it's all about, ISO play in those decisive moments, and except from Laprovitola, it won't be easy for them to create those, shots. But at the same time, as you mentioned, potentially, or not, but potentially, officially, the best defender of the year are going to be the main target on Madrid's defense facing Barca. And it all depends on Sertac Lee, if he's making those shots or not. It depends on if Jan Vesely is making those mid-range shots. Also, their defensive pick and roll coverage basically, forces them to live with guards or those big guys making mid-range shots or shots beyond the arc. So that will be the story of the series, I think. But at the same time, I also pick Barcelona because I just think that they're just a better basketball team this year. In 5 of their head-to-heads this season, including the Supercopa and the Spanish League, Barca won 3 games, and 2 of these losses, the first one was basically the very first game of the season in Supercopa, after having all these players coming from the Eurobasket and all these competitions. So you kind of get it, can get it, why you lose the game, because it was so early. Barca had so many adjustments during the summer, so many new guys. And the second loss was, if you remember, there was this crazy game with Sergio Llull having a 15-point fourth quarter, making some Steph Curry shots, and then Janan Musa just killing it in overtime. So if you exclude that, objectively speaking, Barca was always in a situation where they controlled those games. So I would go with Barca. They're in a better momentum than they were last year when they choked at the end of the season, because in the last 2 months, Barca lost only 2 games. So I think that's huge. So better momentum, better mood in the locker room, potentially avoiding the Game 5 situation. Experience from the last year, I think that's playing in Kaunas for Šarūnas Jasikevičius, that might be special. So I also see Barca going to the final.
I think what could be interesting strategy, just to switch things up, playing Mirotić a little at the 5, to really stretch out Tavares. That could be something they could look at. He has a size. He's a footer. He played some 4 or 5 in the league. I'd like to see him at the 5, maybe 4 or 5 minutes, just to kind of really change the dynamics, because he can really stretch the floor. Excellent shooter.
Is Mike Tobey still on the roster?
Yep.
Yeah, they played them together. Yeah, Oof. They played them together. I don't. It's very curious.
Yeah. Who's gonna guard Tavares then on the other end, or we're going to play this 3 is more than 2 game?
They going to play mostly pick and roll. They're not going to give him too many post ups right away. Yeah. They're going to play mostly pick and roll. So you got to handle that, deal with that. But I know Partizan just started switching. That created some problems for their defense and fouls on the guards. But Madrid has smaller guards compared to Barcelona. So I think, those big guards on Barcelona, they might be able to switch. They're taller. They have that size, that physicality. I'm not saying they're going to stop Tavares, but they can make it tough jump hooks. When you're shooting over 6'6", 6'7", with Sasorinsky and, Kalinic, those type of guys at the forward position, it's different when you're shooting over, punter who's more thin in stature, or a Jan Madar, Nunley. It's not the same type of body as, those Barcelona guards who are tall, stronger, and long.
Okay, so I see you have Monaco facing Barcelona in the EuroLeague final on Sunday. Who do you have lifting the title?
I'm gonna keep my my vote secret. And,
okay.
I'm not picking one. No, seriously. You know what, man? I'm gonna go.
Your team, Mike James.
I want Mike James to win one, man. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna tell you, I'm gonna be biased. I want him to win one. obviously that's my guy. So Corey's not playing right now. So if Corey's playing, then I would definitely just stay in the middle. But Corey's not playing right now, so I'm gonna go with Mike for now. So I'm gonna go Monaco. I want Monaco to win probably.
It's tough. It's tough because I want to say the winner Olympiacos and Monaco is going to host the trophy, but Barcelona is really good. Like, they're well coached. They're really good. It's like an oil machine over there. And they're going to make the game gritty. They're going to slow it down. Physicality. I feel like Monaco has advantage Olympiacos because they're running. You know, it's going to be up-tempo game, free-flowing. I don't know if they want to play that half-court game with Barcelona. I hate to say it. You know, I like Mike. It's my guy. You know, he already gave me a hard time, you know, for picking him to lose to Maccabi. You know, but I feel like if that's the matchup, probably will be Barcelona hosting the trophy. But I would love to see Mike get his. You know, I hope I'm wrong. I hope, but unlike the voters, I pick with my brain, not my heart.
I'm pretty sure even if I would have picked Barcelona, I have a phone call right away. He might block me.
Hey, we got him beat Olympiacos, getting to the final. You know, that's one step. Yeah. That's two steps further than last year.
That's not enough for Mike, no.
Yeah, he wants that title. I know he wants it. And, you know, he's deserving of it. It's gonna be tough, but
I started thinking about who else except from Mike James were, you know, one of these, not just American, but just your EuroLeague greats that they were, you know, consistently showing the elite game, but didn't win the championship. I mean, we have these discussions in the NBA like, oh, Charles Barkley was great, but he didn't win the title. John Stockton, Karl Malone, some other guys. I believe that Mike is in that very rare company of historical players not winning the title. So not sure if this Final Four is the one, but yeah, I'd love to see him winning the title.
Yeah.
Just not sure about this year, but at the same time, he's not getting younger, so
and then that salary cap
now or never.
That salary cap in France is not going to help. Not going to help the opportunity. So he got to go do it now. Do it now before that luxury tax hit, or they can start paying people under the table like Asvel. Just don't get caught.
Probably the other figure would be Keith Langford.
Yeah,
he was
that's
one of
the only guy I could think of.
Yeah, and he just retired recently, and he's appreciated as one of these legends from the United States, and he never won the EuroLeague, so it's a bit unfair, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I also have feelings that it's gonna be hometown kid Šarūnas Jasikevičius taking all the glory in Kaunas with Barcelona. So maybe next time, Mike. Maybe next time.
Hey, if he wins,
he's gonna let you have it.
We got to bite him on the show. He's coming on the show for sure.
He's talking crazy. He's gonna talk crazy.
And we won't be able to say him nothing for like 5 minutes of his of him ranting on the podcast. But yeah,
you might have to change.
Platform.
You had to change the name of the show for one day. Mike James podcast. One day he earned it if they win it.
That's the deal. Yeah, that's the deal now. No, but putting jokes aside, and honestly speaking, I think that Mike James is playing the most matured basketball that I've seen in many years. Being the all-around leader for his inexperienced team, taking the responsibility, either facing a double or triple Maccabi defense, or even hostile crowd like in Tel Aviv. And not just his game, but his presence and character calms his team down. And I don't really think that you can ask much more from him than he delivers now. So I think it's more about others now to step up big time to help him to win that trophy. Just for the end of the podcast, since ESPN will stream the Final Four, they started streaming the EuroLeague games since the Game 5 of the playoffs. What would be your selling point to your US friends, American basketball fans, or just regular people who watch NBA basketball and have this opportunity to watch the Final Four? What would be one tweet you would send them all to convince to tune in the Final Four in Kaunas this week?
I'd say it's like the NCAA tournament, the Final Four, but on steroids. Better athletes, more skilled players, better atmosphere, more on the line. So you still get that love of the game, like a college athlete, an amateur, but you're getting the talent and the ability and the skill of professionals.
Man, I would probably just post a video of Mike Brown being at the Olympiacos game and seeing that arena. That's enough for me to watch anything, probably. If I would have seen that, I would probably tune into anything they had to put on. if I had to make a choice right there.
I would probably actually put KD's
video
from the last year's playoffs.
That was
Apocalypse.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I just hope that Olympiacos fans, they won't make the apocalypse in Kaunas, because Kaunas actually rebuilt it quite nicely in the last few years. So it would be, sad to see them being destroyed.
Oh, they're going to tear that arena up. If they win that championship, y'all going to have to replace a lot of seats.
Anyways, it was a pleasure to have you guys on this pod. Eric, my frequent guest and teacher for European listeners, and also Will, you're our All-EuroLeague team member in our hearts. So it's great to have you here, and just don't be sad about that.
Yeah, we appreciate you, brother.
You know what's crazy? As soon as I walked in the house, my wife said something right away. He said something right away. I'm like, all right, it is what it is.
You gotta love it. The wives don't play. They gonna go to bat for their man.
They be into it, man. They be into it.
Hey, she knows the game. She knows what we see. Yeah, gotta respect her basketball intelligence. I'm right with her.
You know what? She called out one ASAP. I said, all right. She called out one ASAP. Right.
You should let them tweet. You should let them be more vocal on Twitter. That would create some great content for us, actually.
Man, with
to run
problems.
the business more smooth.
We had people be having beef on the floor. What your wife say to
me? Oh man, that's a fact. Because they watch just as much EuroLeague games with us. They sit there and they watch all the games.
They listen to all the podcasts.
Yeah.
That's the feedback I've got from some players, so we have to be careful with what we are saying.
Yeah, because the wives run the household. They'll come back with a vengeance.
Okay, everyone. Thanks all for listening, and just make sure you please all your wives at your home, and stay tuned with BasketNews.com.